You're listening to the Homeownership podcast by Momentum Realty, real estate talk for buying, selling, and owning property.
Hey guys, Sean Patrick Maloney here, broker owner of Momentum Realty, located in Hanover, Massachusetts. Welcome to episode 41, Smoothly Transitioning into Your New Home. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Maloney. Thanks for joining me this week and congratulations on your journey towards home ownership or on your journey towards selling your home but moving into a new place. A lot of people get really nervous when it comes to time to actually move in. It's an exciting journey. You have a new home coming and now suddenly it's go time. It's time to do things. It's time to get it all done. And people just kind of freeze up on what to do and when to do it. So I'm going to go over some things here today. Obviously not everything because there's a lot, but I'm going to go over some things here today to do both as a buyer and seller to make this transitionary period the smoothest possible and the most enjoyable possible, and to make sure that you take care of the necessities. So first off, you want to make sure that you reach out to the post office. The post office has a way now online where you can actually do a change of address form, and it's pretty easy. You actually do have to do a change of address form for each and every family member that I believe is over the age 18, but there are some younger kids that get mail, so it may be wise to actually ask the post office if you have children that are getting mail, if they should do theirs as well. If you do the online post office one, you do get a coupon at the end for 10% off Lowe's usually, and a few other different cool coupons like that. So make sure you look through the coupons at the end because they know you just bought a home, so they're trying to get you to spend a lot of money with them. And a lot of people actually give you great coupons. But updating with the post office is an important part. But also do remember, as you see things that come in now that you have updated with the post office, you're going to see a little tag on it, a little yellow tag when they actually show up, and it's going to say that notify sender. And what it's telling you is that the sender of that is sending it to the wrong address. So that's when you talk about subscriptions and all the people that you work with. So you need to thank your doctor's office, your school supplies, your Amazon account, your magazines, your Netflix, all these different subscriptions you have. Every time you get one back that you realize has now been forwarded to you, which will only happen actually for the first 6 to 12 months, depending on which type of service you get. You want to think, how do I move on and get each one of these to happen? So you got to reach out to each and every one of them. Usually the easiest way is online. My bank actually offers a program where they have all the apps under the sun and they do a change of address for all of them in the one program. So there's actually quite a few programs out there that do this, but you do just want to make sure you take care of them all. And also pay attention when you first move in. If something's missing, you might want to reach out to the people that you're working with that company, because even if you do a forward of address on the post office, there are things that don't make it through, or there are things that returned to sender versus forwarding to you, which means you could be missing something. But again, as a seller, you want to make sure you do the same thing. You want to do the change of address, whether you decide to pick up a P.O. box because you're moving into an apartment for the time being, you don't know where you're going to be, or you want to change the address to your new home. So this is something that's super important. And also remember that just because a bill doesn't show up in your mailbox doesn't mean that you can cry to the company that you didn't get it. So you need to be the adult about it and make sure that you do this so that you don't run into issues with everything from your previous bills for your car to your insurances and everything like that. And you also want to make sure you reach out to the federal and the state agencies. The tax agencies are really important to update with your information. Again, they don't accept the answer of, I'm sorry, your mail didn't come to me. I'm sorry you didn't reach out to me correctly. So the IRS has forms online that you can actually go on there and update them on where you're at. And this also applies to if you have a home business. You want to make sure you change your home business address, that your business license is changed, as well as the mailing address changed. Not just the mailing address, but also the business address, whether you're an LLC or a corporation and you need to also change it with the Secretary of the State, or you just need to go down to the town hall and have a localized business permit done. You just need to make sure that you reach out and get them both done. The Social Security Administration is an important one to reach out to. They're going to have an online application that you can easily access and get on there and change things over. A lot of these type of items, they're easy to kind of glaze over. We all focus on turning the heat on. We all focus on making sure, God forbid, we don't have internet, of course, and all the other things like that. But we don't think about the ones that are the requirements of life, the things like the health insurance bill and the Social Security Administration. So make sure you pay attention to that. And like I mentioned, you're going to have to turn on the gas and the electric. I went over that actually in the most recent one, talking about coming close to the closing. But the gas and electric bill is something you want to reach out ahead of time so you don't have any lapse. The two of them are actually pretty easy, natural gas and electric, because they actually just flip a switch and it changes over that day. But you also have some other ones, like I said before, the phone, the internet, the cable, that you need to reach out to somewhere in at least a week in advance, because they typically have a 3 to 5 day lead time before they can do the install. So if you're not reaching out to them in advance, you could end up with a lapse in service. Same thing in the reverse. If you're selling your home, you want to reach out in advance to let those companies know, I'm not going to be there anymore, and can you please shut it off and make sure that the new buyer is going to take it over. So a lot of other utilities that are out there, you have everything from trash and recycling to wood to oil, a million different things. You got to just look at it, reach out to your agent, find out what utilities the house has and who to reach out to, and make sure that you get them all set up. Then the next one is your homeowners or renters insurance. So if you're selling your home and you're moving to a rental, you may actually need to start a renter's insurance plan. You no longer will have homeowners insurance. Or if you're moving into a new home that you just purchased, it's time now to start a homeowner's insurance plan, which they're actually going to deal with this. They won't actually give you a mortgage before you have the home insurance, because your home insurance is going to be paid if you have a mortgage by the mortgage company through escrows. What this means is they take the money out of your account, they put it in a bank account in your name, and they make sure that they pay that homeowner's insurance so you never have a lapse in coverage. Just in case ever something happened, they wouldn't want to lose their asset, because technically your mortgage owns your home and they're protecting their interests by paying those up in front. If you are going into a rental and you're getting renter's insurance, it's important that you make sure you know how to do that as far as what coverages you need, as far as walls in versus how much actual value you have. Make sure you keep receipts, make sure you keep all that information. And if you're moving from rental to rental, make sure you let them know, because your last coverage will not cover you in the new place. Next, make sure you tell your employer. Your employer has certain things that they need to file with the state, and they also have things like your payroll records, such as your 1099s or your W-9 at the end of the year, that they're going to be mailing you out, as well as past employers. But past employers that were within the past 12 months, you're going to want to let them know as well, because when it comes time for tax season, they're actually going to reach out to you to send you those tax information forms. So you want to make sure that's good. As well as if you have a direct deposit system at your current job, it's going to be important that they know that you've moved, especially if you move far enough where you've actually moved banks. You want to make sure you let them know that. Your bank and your credit card company, you definitely want to let them know. As you know, when you go to pay with a credit card or a bank card, it's going to ask you your address. If you're running your old address, you can run into issues. So you want to make sure that you now have your new address, and then you want to remember that when you go to checkout and you go to pay for actual items, you're going to need to use your new address. So it's time to memorize that new zip code, and it's time to know what you got going on. I already talked about health insurance, but there's some other ones like dental insurance, car insurance, life insurance. You want to make sure you update all these. One really important one that people forget to do is the car insurance. The car insurance is really important because your car is technically not properly insured by being at the wrong house. You'll possibly have a rate increase or decrease depending on where you're actually garaging the home, which is known as where you're keeping your car. You might not have a garage, but they just call it garaging the car. You're going to have an actual change in plan if you're moving town to town, because different towns qualify for different plans, so that can be interesting. I know mine went down by $200-something on a recent move from one town to another, which was actually pretty nice. I enjoyed getting a discount when I wasn't really expecting it. But do remember that they may not cover you if your car gets stolen out of your driveway and you're new to town and you didn't actually change your insurance because it wasn't supposed to be sleeping there and you're not temporarily there. And remember, at the end of the day, insurances hate to pay out no matter how it goes. So if they can figure out a way to get away from it, they're going to do that. They also will need to send you any bills as well as the insurance cards. So just make sure you update those guys right away. We went over before magazines and subscription services, but they're a good thing to remind you of because a lot of times we forget the subscriptions and the magazines that we have because there's kind of an old school media. It may even be a good time to actually cancel out some of those subscriptions that you didn't realize you were getting, and it might be a good time to just look at some of those only $5 and $10 or $20 a month type items and see if you couldn't consolidate some of those to keep your costs down with the new home. When we go to the car insurance I mentioned before, I forgot to mention also you want to make sure that you reach out to the Registry of Motor Vehicles. The Registry of Motor Vehicles is going to want an update on where the address that your car is kept, as well as they're going to want an update on your physical license. So that's an important one to do. You get pulled over out of town and you're actually in town, it's going to be hard to tell the police officer that, I actually live right up the street, and he's going to say, no, you live at this other place, and your story's going to start coming off as crooked, and it can just run you into problems. So ultimately, that's a good thing to think about. When you're doing your online shopping, I mentioned before changing over your Amazon and things like that, but one of the things you want to make sure is the original checkout, when you go to do it, a lot of times it has a preferred delivery address. So that's one that you want to take and change your preferred delivery address. So I know when I do a lot of gift giving through my online groups that I run, it ends up sometimes grabbing another address as the preferred address, and I always have to be careful to make sure I set it back to the proper address that I actually want it to go to. So just make sure you check that out. And then if you had any individual service providers, things like lawn care people, pool people, irrigation people, you want to make sure that you move those along with you. As well as if you're the seller, you want to make sure you shut them off, because there's nothing more frustrating to pay to have a lawn mowed that you aren't at anymore, and you can't expect that the guy who mows the lawn or cleans the pool just should naturally know and should just stop doing it. You need to make sure you reach out to them to stop it, but also you need to reach out to them to make sure that they transfer to your new property. And this is a time where you can actually go out and get multiple quotes and think about actually changing over to other people, things like that, but make sure that you let them know, as well as if you have any sort of medical equipment, if you're getting oxygen deliveries, if you're getting different things like that in the mail where you're getting your pills and stuff, those are really important ones, because in the world where you need certain things like that now, when you have a medical condition, it can be really difficult to find out that it was delivered to a different home, and until they go and pick up that last supply, they don't want to give you your next supply, and then suddenly you're trying to figure out exactly what to do. So keep that in mind when you're changing addresses and you have any sort of medical conditions where you're getting things sent to you. And then I mentioned before, make sure to update your doctor, your dentist, your veterinarian, and all those people about your new address. Last but not least, it's important to really tell your friends and family. This is actually a fun time. Usually I suggest doing it multiple times. First, just letting people know with a simple reach out, maybe a phone call, maybe a card. Cards work better than phone calls in this type of situation, or emails, just because you can write the new address down and you can give them all the details. You also can use your phone and send over a contact card to everybody. You can put in all the information and just write it out once and send it to everybody at the one time. But the other thing that can be fun is to take a photo of yourself in front of your new house and create a postcard out of it. And a lot of people forget to do this one, have a housewarming party. There's no better way to get a bunch of cool free stuff and to see family than to have a housewarming party. When you tell people you have a new house, they'll be excited for your new house. You can get some food and some drinks, and you can have everybody by, and you can go down to your local Target or Best Buy or all these other locations. You can register for what you're looking for, and then people can come by and check out your new place. You can get some new stuff, and then after that, when usually you do these registries, the company will actually send you a coupon at the end that says if you want to buy anything out of the basket that wasn't bought for you, is 10% off or is 30% off. So it's a great way to get some of the things that you need. I just want to talk to you about one last thing today when it comes to smoothness and transition and moving. One thing that I notice a lot of people do that's a real mistake is to try to fill the house the first day, to try to have every item ready, to call delivery companies and buy everything, and just to want to walk into a complete house. A house is much more complete when the items that are within it are what you want. You can get very expensive to just buy everything all at one time, So one thing that's really nice is to just get enough that you have your bed, you have your couch, you have a few things, but then fill in the gaps with time. Figure out how much it's going to cost you to have the new home. Kind of get used to the bills. What's the heat going to be? All these different things before you go crazy spending. It's easy to get victimized by the fact that we live in a credit-free country where you can get credit from everywhere. We can walk today, go down to the mall, and by the time we walk out the other end, we can pay for absolutely none of it and have every store card in the world. We can also buy furniture at 0% down. We can go pick up a car. We can do all these things. But what I'm telling you is when you buy a new home, in order to keep it the smoothest transaction possible, it's really important to take your time and to get things that you like. And I guarantee you'll enjoy it more as far as overall, if you collect things over time, each one will have value versus just trying to fill the space that's there for the item that you need. Make sure to shop around, make sure to check everything out, and I guarantee it'll be a better experience. If you have any questions or comments or concerns to do with this podcast or any others, feel free to reach out to me directly through PM, DM, phone call, text message, whatever works out best for you. Make sure to follow this podcast, tell your friends about the podcast, and if you ever need help buying or selling a home, reach out to us over here at Momentum Realty. We'd be happy to help you find the right agent for your purchase or your sale, no matter where it is in the country. Thank you for listening this week, and I look forward to talking to you next week.